and enjoy it.
Incredible. You are a millionaire.
Yikes.
Right, Dr Sara is here to take us through the biggest health headlines.
Morning.
Morning to you. Let's start with the fact that ministers aim to dish out annual booster jabs to combat COVID and new variants. So this could be an annual thing.
Yeah, I think it's going to move towards, how we experience a flu jab annually. We know that the booster vaccinations do wane after around 6 months, so it is important that we do keep up with these vaccinations, and I suspect that is what the ministers are going to move on with. We know that the Education Secretary had said that, they're hoping that this vaccination programme is going to be able to move us from a pandemic to an endemic. I think that's the aim going forward.
And what is the difference with endemic?
Sure. So an epidemic is when you've got a disease that affects a region, a large population, or country. When it's a pandemic, that means that epidemic has spread across continents and countries. And then when it's an endemic, it means that there is something, that's going to stay there in the background as a constant, but it's only in specific locations. So, for example, malaria is endemic to certain parts of Africa, and the aim is that we get to that kind of point.
Okay. Next story. I always want to be really careful when we're sort of putting people off eating fresh produce, because this headline says the Mediterranean diet could cause infertility. How so?
Well, I think this stuff definitely needs to be broken down, because A, infertility is such a sensitive topic, and B, Mediterranean diet, we don't want to demonise entire diets, as you've mentioned.
Well, that would be demonising fruit and veg.
Exactly, which is what we tell people to eat all the time. We're constantly saying that the Mediterranean diet is considered one of the healthiest. It reduces type 2 diabetes, it reduces strokes, heart attacks, and now suddenly this has come out. But actually, if you break it down, this is based on a study by University of Oslo, and it's a very small study, only 27 students who were writing out what they ate and then giving urine samples. And the urine samples were looking for environmental contaminants, so things like pesticides and the toxins related to that. Now, we know that pesticides and toxins and environmental contaminants can increase risk of infertility because of the way it affects hormones. Now, in this study, they found that those that were eating just normal Mediterranean diet, so non-organic foods, had 3 times the amount of these contaminants in their urine compared to when you just have a normal Western diet, so, your usual British grub. But they found that if you have organic Mediterranean diet, that risk reduces by 90%. So actually, what this study is showing is that we're eating too much non-organic food. There's too much pesticide. It's not really the Mediterranean diet as such. It's just that fruits and vegetables and grains are the things that tend to be contaminated the most with pesticides because they're used mostly on those.
But also, it's only 27 people.
Yeah, I know.
It's the tiniest study.
It's a really small study. I think the problem is we know that pesticides aren't good for us, and that is based on other studies. So we've got a big background.
But that's such a misleading headline.
Completely.
Mediterranean diet could cause infertility.
I mean, it's no surprise
that... Take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, it's no surprise that headlines do that.
Cabbies, this is an interesting one. Scientists hope a study of taxi drivers' astonishing memory for maps will help make it easier to detect Alzheimer's. How have they put these two together?
Well, I'm always dumbfounded about their memories. I think it's incredible how well they can remember the London maps. We know from previous studies that the hippocampus, the area in the brain that's related to memory, is considerably larger in London cabbies compared to the general population. Now, they have taken it a step further, and they're now looking at MRIs where cabbies are actively trying to map out routes. And they're studying those MRIs to see how the memory and the maps within the brain work. And they're hoping that this will then lead us to a better understanding of our brain and therefore better ways to diagnose and treat Alzheimer's earlier.
Amazing. Wow. And finally, coffee chains are selling festive drinks containing as much sugar in a single cup as almost 8 McDonald's donuts.
But when I had an eggnog latte on Saturday, it was one of the greatest moments of my year. I've got to say, I was so happy it was back.
Well, this is it. Look, I think the Christmas festive period is a time for indulgence. We know that. And it should be considered as a nice, lovely treat. But the problem is that, for example, Cafe Nero have a mint chocolate chip, which has 63 grams of sugar in it. That's equivalent to 15 teaspoons of sugar, or, as we say, nearly 8 donuts.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And so it's considerable. And we are only meant to be eating 30 grams of sugar a day.
They're saying that this is a nutritionist said they shouldn't be regarded as drinks. We should sell them as pudding.
It's Christmas custard.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're drinking it. Thank you. Right, still to come, Clodagh McKenna's in the kitchen with one of my all-time favourites, her American-style mac and cheese.
And they won't want you to hit the pause button. We'll be getting a first look at the new TV channel that's designed especially for your dogs right after your weather.